Recording in progress.
Good evening and welcome to the HVAC went off. Welcome to the Wednesday, November 12th meeting of the Town of Somers Planning Board. It's Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. I'd ask for everybody to please stand for the pledge.
Yeah, I'm all right. Thank
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I'm all right. She got it straight. Okay, thanks a lot.
Nicole, can you call the roll, please?
Chair Vicky Gannon,
Here.
Paul Cheverdini,
Here.
Jack Mattis.
Here.
Bruce Prince.
Here,
Anthony Sutton.
Here.
Christopher Zaberto.
Here.
Thank you. The first item for consideration of the draft minutes of October 8th, 2025. We did have one correction that council suggested. I printed it up, but I haven't got it with me. It was part of the discussion about the
Training course.
training courses, yes.
It was just an errant and.
Exactly, and addition was on the last page. So, are there any other comments or questions about the draft minutes? If not, then I move we approve the minutes as amended. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda tonight, project review of Heritage Hills 202 Center patio. This is a site plan application, tax map 17.11-10-20. The applicant is seeking approval to modify the existing patio area at the Heritage 202 Shopping Center. The property is located at 249 Route 202 and is in a neighborhood shopping NS zoning district. So, Dave, do you want to start with a planning note?
Well, is the applicants here?
And here?
Okay. Maybe perhaps just have the applicant start, and then we can follow up. Just by way of background, the applicant has coordinated with the building department and with the planning office on their application, and so this is a suggested approach given the fairly de minimis improvements that they're requesting. So, Nicole, why don't you go through the...
Hi, and if you could just, behind the podium, the microphone, we just need to make sure that everybody can hear you for the record. And if you need to point, there's a pointer hanging down from the...
Gotcha. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I am Nicole. I work with Studio Architecture. We are here on behalf of the property owners, Regency Center. Tonight, what we'd like to present to you is kind of like a beautification of the existing patio area that is in front of the Heritage Hills Shopping Center. They have a pretty wide patio, pretty deep patio area that currently is just unkept landscape and really wide sidewalks for no real reason. There's a fair amount of tenants in here that do serve food, and like Bobo's currently already has outside seating. So our plan is to kind of expand on that and make some nicer paved patio areas rather than just concrete sidewalk all over the place, to encourage the patrons of the shopping center to hang out for a little while, sit, enjoy their food, enjoy Somers, and to help the tenants at the shopping center with, you know, the seating issues that they currently have.
Okay. Thank you, Nicole. So procedurally, what the applicant has requested is relief from the typical site plan requirements, other than providing, and Steve, this the issue with respect to stormwater and stormwater management. This application is comparable, if you recall, to the issue that Baldwin Place had with if you remember, they had the speed humps on the ring road that services that facility, and they came in. There was an issue there, and Bureau of Fire Prevention reviewed it. They did not have an issue with the design, and the amendments to that site plan were essentially very de minimis. But it was important to at least reflect or to get those improvements on paper and to have them recorded for the town and also for the building department. So I think that's their main request, is that those specific, or the site plan requirements for a much more robust improvement program development be waived along with the public hearing. This is falls under the type of action classification for seeker, so that there's no environmental assessment form that's required. Essentially, there's no adverse impact as a result of the proposed action. So at this time, I would ask Steve if he could just kind of review for the board, his comments and how the applicant's responding to any drainage issues or stormwater management issues.
Sure. Hi, Nicole. We had could you describe for the board, of the two areas where the improvements are being made, what is on the ground now?
Sure. So I do have an existing plan that I can flip over to, just to give you guys a better idea of what exactly is going on currently. So, not sure how well everybody can see this, but most of the existing patio area is entirely covered with concrete. We do have two small landscaped areas that are really just grass covered by curb. And one of the existing landscaped areas is supposed to remain. The one that's to the upper left-hand side of the plan is one that we plan to replace with pavers. It's about a little under 600 square feet of what's currently just grass, no plants or foliage or anything like that. And that upper one is the one that we are looking to replace with pavers.
So the plan is to take out the grass and put in pavers in its location.
Correct.
Are there same pavers being put in the existing?
Concrete in the existing patio areas, yes.
Okay. And those pavers, are they an open joint paver? Are they grouted?
So I'm not entirely sure that the property owner has decided completely what type of material they want to use. There was some discussion about using pavers, and then there was some discussion about using stamped concrete as well. So I think it really would be up to the board's determination which they would prefer to see there. They don't really have a preference at this time.
So from an engineering perspective, as it relates to managing stormwater, and while this is a relatively small area in the overall site, which has a lot of impervious area, this is kind of a very minor piece to it. I think one thing that the board should consider is, while this small area is currently proposed to go from grass to something which might be a pervious paver, it might not be, is what.
Right.
You kind of do that 10 more times, and all of a sudden you've got a big change in the stormwater on the site. So our questions that we just sent to you in an email was really just trying to clarify from a stormwater perspective what's going on in that small area.
Right.
If it's pervious or not. I believe that there's run-on from at least 2 roof leaders onto that grass area.
Yeah.
And so that needs to be considered.
Yep.
Don't want to,
Of course.
either that needs to go somewhere and not just kind of create a sheet of ice
Right.
in the winter. There was a detail in what was submitted that did look like a pervious paver application. There was a stone or an item for subbase. It looked like it was an open joint paver. If that is to be used, we just had a question as to whether it would be feasible, or if there was a reason not to use. If it's a pervious paver, the DEC's pervious paver section with the appropriate gravel and choker course, and so there may be a reason not to use it, but we just had a question as to why that wasn't being proposed or not. So
Sure.
I think from a stormwater perspective, if you are using a pervious system, that would make things much easier, and we would probably just suggest to the board that a condition of the approval for that be to conduct a perk test during construction to be witnessed by the town engineering commission, just to confirm that water does go into the ground as you intend it to, and it's suitably sized.
Sure.
So a little bit more information on those pavers in that area would be useful, so that we can confirm that from a safety and a stormwater perspective, that it's appropriate.
Looking at the diagram, you had said upper left. Could you point just for clarity so we all know exactly which grassy area? There's a pointer hanging down.
Yes, thank you.
There you
Would
go.
be this one up here is the one that is proposed to be replaced. This one down here is going to be remaining.
Okay, the pre-existing one. So nothing where you've got the planters, what's really in front of the bank, the larger one, that the extreme upper left and the
Yeah.
other smaller upper, they're staying as is.
Yep, that's
Okay,
fine.
okay.
And nothing that we're proposing is going outside of the existing curb line that's here. Everything is remaining within this existing curb line. We're not touching any blacktop.
I have a question. Are your tenants in the building aware of your plans? Have they involved in this at all? Is this from their suggestions?
That is something that the property owner would really be better to speak to. I'm not really privy to what the tenants do or don't know about what proposed construction is going on. I would assume that they probably have not been made aware yet, and that it's something that they would look to see if it's feasible option here, and then alert the tenants to what the plan would be.
Would we anticipate the building having to close during this? Will
No.
businesses have to close their?
No, nothing is interior. Nothing is going to affect the driveway or the parking lot. All of it would be on the existing paved sidewalk area. So I doubt that we would have the tenants close. What would likely happen is it would be done kind of in pieces so that everybody is allowed access, and whatever, construction safety and egress plans for the tenants would be required before construction starts will be provided.
Any other comments, questions?
Well, my concern is that, the curved area there, which is a fire lane,
Yes.
is constantly a stop in the morning spot. I've been there many times where there's 2 or 3 cars parked there while people run into Bobo's and pick up their orders. And I just was wondering if there's a way, I don't know that we would ever eliminate that from happening without having to have a police patrol there, and that's not, favorable for the customers of the facility either. But does this represent an opportunity for us to rethink maybe a pickup area or something to address it so that there's not that constant parking, sometimes double parking? I've seen cars, too deep at the curb while people run in and pick up their orders.
So, change some spots into like a short-term in and out sort of.
Yeah, or maybe
option?
take that curved area and dedicate, a couple of spots in that curved area as a pickup area.
Yeah, I think it's not something that had been considered in this application because we were trying to keep the scope of work outside of the parking lot and modifying any parking spaces or getting into those approvals. I can certainly speak with the property owner and the property manager and see if they have any suggestions as to how to remediate that issue of people double parking. Obviously, people should not be parking in the fire lane. Thankfully, I don't believe that this application is doing anything that would worsen that issue. It certainly does not address it, but I don't think that we're doing anything to the parking lot or to the paved area that's going to further encourage people to start parking there. But I certainly, if that's something that the board is interested in, can speak with the property owner about
Just wondering if
their considerations.
whether maybe there's some planning best practices for solving the problem. I mean, I know you'll never eliminate the parking.
Steve, or Dave, do they need additional permits if they wanted to improve the markings in the parking lot? So if they were to, during this cosmetic, we'll call it, right, this cosmetic lift, if they were able to yellow stripe in that area, would that require town involvement? I get what you're trying to do.
Yep.
Because now if we start modifying parking spaces, there needs to be compliance and a review.
Yep.
But just to help address, and I have seen that, where it's, and you know, we don't blame, obviously, I don't think it would be fair to blame the landlord or even your tenants, people being selfish, choosing not to park and
Right.
for convenience or whatever the case may be. But maybe just a reminder somehow, whether signage or stripes, that
Yeah.
the no parking area, fire,
Right.
anything like that, just to help emphasize that.
I also can't help but think that even if we do dedicate a spot or 2 spots or 3 spots to a pickup, if those are full, people are still going to go park in the fire lane because that's what people do. I think that maybe an idea of like a sign or some kind of a reminder just to encourage people to say, hey, don't park here, maybe would be helpful. But I also believe that adding any signs to the property would require an additional site plan approval.
All right, so let me just clarify. So Anthony, there's a marked fire lane.
I believe it is. Yeah, I don't
Okay.
mark,
Yep, it's,
but there are some zebras. There are some zebra stripes.
Okay.
sorry, this is kind of a weird angle for me, but I believe it's right here. This is the fire lane here.
Okay. So and this issue came up with 247 100 with the yoga studio. Any restriping of a parking lot requires a permit from the building department. So there would be some coordination with the town on any restriping. There may be some solutions, and we could ask the applicant to continue to look at that with respect to how you can modify the site plan to accommodate pickup. You know, there are lots of different vendors that have apps where you phone in and you're allowed to, curbside pickup. You name the food service, Stu Leonard's, Chick-fil-A, they all have some kind of app that helps their customers come in, pre-order, park, pick up their order.
Ride shares too, I've noticed, are right. So there's third-party ride shares.
Yeah.
You can use to pick up the food. They all often abuse.
Yeah. Yes.
Entitled to that. I mean, we're getting off topic.
Yes, but
Obviously, discussion. Also, for the record, Tony mentioned Bobo's, but there are other businesses there that also. I don't want to pick on Bobo's.
Oh, no.
They've been a mainstay in Somers for a long time, but there is also a deli there, and there's some other
Yep, absolutely. There's
businesses
other
that people
tenants.
would have the need
Sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
but even
run in and run out.
Even the present marking is just zebra stripes. There's no fire lane mark.
so
Maybe it could be, the paint could be refreshed and you could put something in that says no parking fire lane.
yeah, we could, and that's an issue I can follow up with the building department on, because they keep a list, and there's supposed to be a list in the town code of every fire lane in every commercial district or facility. So we can follow up with that.
So is that something that can be accomplished outside of the
Yes.
terms of this application?
Yes.
Good.
I'm a little confused on the process that you're doing, assuming because of the economic situation, I assume that they want to keep all the tenants that are there.
To be honest with you, I really can't speak to what their plans are for current or future tenants. I'm really not at all involved in that process. We are just the architects that work for the landlord.
No, I understand that, but I'm just a little confused that you come to us with this project without first initially talking to your tenants, assuming that everything that you're presenting they approve. But if we're looking at approving something that is going to cause a problem with any of the tenants, then you might end up having to change what you're doing and thus come back to us with a revised plan. It's the process. I don't know why you're not talking to the tenants first to see if there's any problems before you come to us to get an approval. Because if we approve this and then you go back to your tenants and they say, well, we don't want this. This is for whatever reason. Then you're going to be back here with a new site plan.
Yeah, like I said, I really can't speak to Regency Center's relationship with their tenants and the importance that they place on their tenants' opinions of changes to their properties. I highly doubt that a tenant not liking their design would cause them to redo it. At the end of the day, Regency is the property owner, so it's between them and the town, what's going to go on their properties. I also would have a hard time believing that any of the tenants would find issue with this. I think that this is really improving the look of their shopping center. It's helping with their traffic, with their customers. So I don't really see why any tenants would have an issue with it. But I guess that would be something we would have to look into.
Well, I think if anything, it's slowing people down in a good way, giving them a place to sit,
Right.
as
Yeah.
opposed to they come, they run, they go. Maybe they'll spend more time,
Yeah, that's
do more
cool, kind of.
business. So even the other day, I was at the drive-through on the bank, and there were kids, like maybe middle school age kids, waiting to be picked up.
Right.
So I suspect it's more than just food pickups, or it's people pickups.
Sure. Yeah.
Happening. So I think the addition of the seating is overall, to my mind, a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there in the springtime, and you can see that all those tables in front are full
Absolutely.
currently.
Right.
And on a nice day, that it'll increase the foot traffic
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think just from Bruce's standpoint, and mine too, it's why I asked the question. I think, no offense, but with some of the larger developers and building owners, they tend to assume that my tenants will like it, and maybe they won't.
Right.
So, and then look at it like I know Somers Smiles, the owner of that, it was or is a Somers resident. So the representation, and you made a comment about how it's kind of between Regency and the town, and that's true. We are the town, right? And so
Right.
we're here to ensure that not only the residents, but also our business owners are able to function in the town, right? We're not going to build commercial areas and residential and commercial, and that's to protect everyone. So I think from Bruce's standpoint, and my question was just whether or not the concept was socialized amongst, not that they have to approve it,
Right.
just to let them know that this was our idea. We'd like to make improvements, and I just think, and I also recognize that that may have already happened, and you just don't know that because
Absolutely.
you're the design
Yeah.
person and not necessarily the broker of the deal.
Absolutely. I have absolutely no relationship with any of Regency's tenants. We're their architects. We show up and do surveys and drawings like this for them. I don't speak to their tenants. I don't know what they have or have not told them, or how they are going to carry their opinions on this to.
Understood, but
Yeah.
generally that feedback may go back to Regency.
Absolutely.
They could
Yeah.
clarify it later or not. It's just,
Right.
we also need to represent the businesses that are there.
Absolutely. And I think that in doing this, that's Regency's goal is that they're trying to help the businesses. They're trying to give them more seating, give them a better facelift and more foot traffic.
Yeah, I reviewed the plan, and I'm often a customer of multiple businesses in there, and I do see this as an improvement.
Right.
But my initial question was, does anyone know?
Right. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Yeah.
I recognize you can't answer it, but I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
Hey, if they're watching tonight, they'll find out.
Well,
Yeah.
And, to Steve's comment about the downspouts, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 downspouts from the current existing view. The one that's closest, you can see, must go into some kind of a drainage pipe. But if there's any that dump onto the area that is going to be eliminated as grass, I mean, that's definitely an issue that's got to be addressed.
Yes, we will absolutely address that. At this point in the project, we're kind of still a little preliminary. We haven't gotten into all of the details and nuts and bolts of how we're going to address draining and that kind of thing. The purpose in us coming here was really to see how the town of Somers would react to something like this, if it was something that was in keeping with, the shopping center, if it was something that they liked, and what the approval process for starting a project like this would be. So once we get back into the building department and Tom is reviewing our drawings and all of that, all of the drainage issues and those things will be addressed?
Well, you'll have to address those issues before you go to the building department.
Okay.
I have to address those with Mr. Robbins.
Gotcha. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, otherwise, I mean, I think it's an improvement. I do agree with that.
Yeah.
And it's a type 2,
Correct, type 2.
which for us to really, other than a point on.
So given that the applicant needs to further clarify the materials that are going to be used for the drainage, what do you see as the next step?
Well, I think I would have to ask Steve if he had a comfort level that he could work with the applicant to address those, and you could have that as a condition
Condition.
of a site plan amendment.
If that would be, is that something that could become?
I take no objection to that. I'm happy to work with the applicant and make sure that it's addressed to an engineering standard that should be.
Okay.
Board so decides to do that.
With that thought in mind, given Dave's introduction, and I agree it's a de minimis change, although it'll be a change for the better, in a good way, I'm going to suggest that pursuant to Section 17114F1A, that we waive site plan requirements and public hearing for this application, with the understanding that the conditions will be had to be met to Steve's requirement on the materials that will be used and to accommodate the drainage from those downspouts.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Good luck, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you need a motion for each, or
We need a separate motion, public hearing versus, waiving the public hearing versus and the site plan requirements?
I would say yes.
I'll make a motion to waive the public hearing on this application.
Yeah, that's fine. The first one
Favor?
can cover the site
Aye.
visit, and the second can cover the public hearing.
Okay. All right, and
Done,
so we're done for both now?
done already.
Okay, all right,
Motion
thank you.
second.
So, it's done, okay. Second project review for tonight is Trailside Estates at Somers. This is site plan application and preliminary subdivision application. Location is Reynolds Drive, tax map 4.20-1-12 and 15.081-4. Applicant is proposing construction of an 81-unit townhouse community with associated appliances. 5 of the 81 units will be sponsor-provided and target households at or below the 120 AMI, area median income. The project also proposes the construction of a community center and dog park to be located on a separate parcel, which will be dedicated to the town of Somers. The property is accessed through Somers Realty Planned Hamlet via Reynolds Drive and is located in the MFRBP Multifamily Residential Baldwin Place zoning district. That's all I have to say for now. So, I do want to say that I am operating at a bit of a disadvantage because I didn't receive the memo until this morning. Work all day. So when I read everything, I read with your very precise response back, Rich. And so as we discuss, I'm going to have to reconcile the memo from this morning with what I was looking at with the plans. So I'm going to apologize in advance for any clunkiness about my questions that you may get here.
No problem. Good evening. For your record, my name is Williams. I'm with Insight Engineering. Also with me is Mr. Ken Carney of Carney Realty and Development, and Charles Martabano, our land use attorney. So this project's been before the town for several years. We haven't seen this board in a few months because we've been working on resolving the technical comments from Woodard and Curran. We prepared what I believe is a pretty comprehensive resubmission, set of drawings, supplemental reports. As you do go through the Woodard and Curran memo, I believe you'll see that the majority of the comments are now addressed. We do have a few additional technical comments in that memo, which I'm sure Steve will go through in a few minutes. But our next step in the process with you is to move towards a public hearing if the board is comfortable. We think with the remaining technical comments, we're at a point where we should discuss if we're ready to go. And we do obviously know for the next resubmission we have to address the outstanding comments.
Okay, we certainly did get a lot of information. I don't know who, Dave or Steve wants to go first.
Yeah, my comments are brief. I think there was also, we had discussed briefly that the village or the town is still waiting for responses from on the Watershed Inspector General's memo. Was that correct?
Correct. So the Watershed Inspector General's office did issue a comment letter on this. It was one of the more unique comment letters from them I've ever received in that it predominantly and almost all of the comments were erosion control based and phasing based. So a lot of times they'll start, they'll look at site plan related stuff, they'll look at layouts, they'll look at much more comprehensive comments. This was a pretty focused memo. We are working through the phasing numbers now, and basically what they've really asked us to do was get into more depth within our phasing and really get more detailed in erosion controls during construction. I would expect within the next week or two we'll have a response back to their memo.
And the other comment I had is that, and we had discussed this at some point, Ken, with the timing, when the community recreation facility would come online or be available, and how that's reflected as part of the community benefit agreement as part of this project. And I know you said you were going to work on that, or you continue to work on that.
I'm working on that with Roland.
Right. So, Madam Chair, I'll also defer to Steve and to Michael, but I feel comfortable that there's a lot of information, enough information for the town to at least open the public hearing to get the process started, and then the other information as it becomes available should be provided before the board considers closing the public hearing. But I think, at least from my review of the information and the plans submitted, that there's more than enough information to at least open the public hearing.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Jack?
Going through the report from our engineer, there's a question about looking at the composition of the soil in the areas that were used as an orchard or whatever it was, where the planting took place in prior years. I'm just curious, why does that matter?
And I think the applicant can address this as well. We've started our review of this. The applicant's provided some, at a prior meeting, probably the last time this was before your board, there was a question asked about whether there's any residual concerns with the prior use as an orchard. The applicant, after some discussion, willingly agreed to go out and sample some soils there as part of the moving of the soils on their site. It's something they would have to do anyway, in terms of understanding whether there's anything in that soil that is of concern to the workforce that's there on the site doing the construction, say. And so they went out and performed some sampling. They provided a report, at least to me. I don't know if it's been provided broadly to the board yet, with some initial results and an initial soil management plan for the site. And we're asking for some clarification on what areas that applies to, and in what areas they're proposing different kinds of controls to make sure that there is good worker safety on the site and no concerns for the ongoing use as a residential property. So some of the underlying soil levels are elevated relative to unrestricted residential use, and there's absolutely a number of ways that can be dealt with, and we're just asking the applicant to clarify in what areas of the site they're proposing which methods, so that we know that it's all by the book.
So was this concern about pesticide use because there was an orchard area?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And I'll leave it to the applicant to present their results and discuss that now or when it's appropriate.
I'm working my way through.
I'll keep I'll if you don't mind, Chairwoman, I can
Please.
go through a few things while you're going through that. The applicant has addressed the vast majority of our comments. We did, on review of additional information provided as part of this, come up with a couple of areas where we noted either discrepancies or a need for some clarification or some additional information. Relative to the overall plan, they're relatively minor. They're either areas where we think there might be a conflict between elevations of utilities, or just in the weeds of some of the stormwater modeling to make sure that that if anyone else were to question this or to review it, that it's clear and it's complete and it was done correctly and appropriately, and hopefully, I think that they are relatively easy to address. I know the applicant probably hasn't had time to review our memo yet, but our remaining comments are relatively minor, and I agree with Dave that if the board so chooses, it's probably a good time for the board to consider whether to schedule a public hearing. Our comments are not anything that we think needs to be addressed prior to that.
Okay.
Another question, in reflecting on where we are and where we started this from, there was an issue with an adjacent property, which is Green Tree, and I've heard rumblings that that's about to come back to this board. I don't know if they have or have not presented anything, but in the community itself, there are rumblings that this is coming back at us. Prior to that happening, I want to keep in mind that one of the things that were generously offered by the owner of the property is that he develop an access to that Green Tree development, the 3 homes there, through this property. So before it's finalized and they're off and running in construction, is there any way to, I don't know, stir the waters and get some kind of an answer as to whether or not that's going to come back and bite us? Maybe,
Well,
you know?
Yeah, well, let Ken begin to respond, and I can kind of fill in, or Charlie, but let them respond.
Yes.
Just to the offer. Yeah.
Sure. Good evening. Great to see everybody again. We came in front of this board in September 2023. We just got the green light, if you will, from the town board, and we came here for a referral, and the question was asked, would you grant access to the proposed property? And I stated at the time, nothing is attractive to us about it. However, we will. We've never turned any board down in this town. We've had tremendous success in this town, and one of the reasons for it is because of our working relationship with this town. When I came back in front of the board, probably last spring, I reiterated that offer, and that is an offer. Recently, I think during the summer, there were questions and so forth. Did you say it? Didn't you say it? Blah, blah, blah. So I put it in a letter. I clarified it in a letter. This is what I said. It still holds true. My handshake is everything in this town. And yes, it's nothing that is, this is a certain development with a certain feel. It doesn't benefit us, but we will do that, and we will work to make it as seamless as possible. We will make a connection right up to, with the board's approval, we could make a connection right up to that property line. Further to that, Charlie had a phone call from the owners over there discussing how it would work and the nuances and stuff. And there was a letter that their attorney sent to the town, and Charlie sent a response letter just clarifying what our understanding was. And the clarification was that, yes, we'll do this. There's things to be worked out, but we'll do it. And one of the concerns was that this isn't real yet. And I don't know, I think it's pretty real because we have the rezone, we have SECRA. I'm not presumptuous in front of this board, but it is real. So we did state it. Something happens to me, my son knows. So it's we can put that in. We're comfortable with that somehow, some way. We haven't shown on the plan an exact connection point,
Right.
but we can. There's a couple nuances. We have an HOA here, right? We have an HOA. How is that going to work? I don't know. Well, there's always a way to figure it out, right? So yes, the answer is yes. A couple more things on the community center. Charlie and Roland are having a detailed discussion about after how many units, right? After how many units a CO. And I was smiling because when we did the Crossroads project, if you remember,
Absolutely.
I was not in favor or crazy about doing that commercial building, right? But it was a thought, and the motion was made to approve. Somebody seconded it, and then somebody said, "Wait a minute, how do we know he's going to do what he says he's going to do?" And the board came up with the idea to hold the CO on the last residential building until I hit a certain mark or progress on the front building. I think it had to be framed, roof on, windows in, and so forth. And thank you, because we probably would not have moved as fast as we did with that building and had the success that we've had in that building. It wasn't commercial isn't our bread and butter, if you will, but I think both of us, my son and I, learned a lot. It worked out pretty well. So Charlie and Roland aren't leaving it to me this time. I think they're getting more detailed. So it'll come down to certain steps have to be done before a number of units. All right, but we're looking forward to building the community center. Councilman Clinchy is still trying to get me to extend it, but we've set it up in a way that it can be added onto at a later date, and we're going to be very proud of that. I think that's really going to be a benefit to the community. So I think I answered everything. Right?
I just want to point out that the letter that Kenny's referring to, I sent it to the ZBA. I also sent a copy to Roland when I sent it out. If you'd like me to send a copy up to the board, they could see it. I'm happy to do that. And that was sent out probably less than a month and a half ago.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, was there anything that you wanted to say?
Regarding whether or not to schedule a public hearing, I defer to Mr. Robbins and Mr. Smith. However, given that you haven't had a chance to review the soil testing reports, you may want to wait. That's my only comment on that. I did have one question for the applicant. Mr. Brony and I were discussing earlier access to the county sewer district. He asked for an update. So if you want to send that to him via email, that's fine. But otherwise, we're just curious.
Sure. Let me say, the process hasn't been as fluid as my other ones. I've done this 3 or 4 times, but there was a disconnect with some paperwork, but that seems to be on track. We have the will serve letter from the county, and we're hoping to be on the Board of Legislators meeting soon. I don't know if that means there's a meeting Monday. I don't know if it means as soon as Monday or if it goes into December. But the last I heard, there were questions. We answered. There were more questions at the beginning of September, answered that. And then there was a question probably 2-3 weeks ago on the final, what the estimated final assessment was going to be after build out. And I worked with the assessor on that. We got that. So I'm hoping that's the last piece.
Okay.
And then we should be in good shape, hopefully.
Just one more thing to clarify. The soil management plan was included in our submission, so everybody should have received a copy.
I was operating off the comment earlier.
Yeah, I heard that, and I didn't.
And we haven't seen it, and I discussed it with Roland earlier, so we were curious as to see.
It was.
So my comment was to the board, just so until they have an opportunity to review it, generate questions, they may want to delay opening the public hearing. They may want to give it a month or scheduling the public hearing. It's in their discretion whether or not they want to schedule it. However, the alternative is to schedule to open it, and then adjourn it until they have that opportunity. So, it's in the board's discretion. That was my opinion.
I heard kind of discretion, but no, that was part of our submission.
Yes, and if I could, I'll touch on the soil. This is not a situation that's uncommon to us. We just built a complex in Highland, the town of Lloyd, former Orchard. We worked with a soil management plan. There was testing done before. We moved some of the soil. There was then we do post-testing and check the endpoints to assure that after we moved it, everything is below certain levels, and that soil stayed on site. As far as soil management, Sean and I have done 8 brownfield. This is not a brownfield. This is not elevated. The results here were nothing very alarming. Let me say that they were mixed. There were a lot of no detects, but there were some that exceeded, and so it's totally manageable. Mixed results, but very, very manageable. We're hoping that we do what we did in Lloyd, come up with a soil management plan. If not, as we're going through this, because this is an approximation, when we're dealing with this, we take our end results, and if it's more than what we thought, then we have to export, because we have to get a certain level. But the brownfields that we have done, we did a large brownfield in Peekskill, did two large brownfields in Poughkeepsie. We have one underway right now in Saranac Lake. We have one up in Lockport outside of Buffalo, one in Gloversville, and we finished one in Newburgh. And all of those involved soil management plans. So we're familiar with this process. And we do it all, when I say we do it all ourselves, we manage it ourselves through our subcontractors. We work with our environmental consultants, but we're hand-on. We have our own construction company, and when it comes to the soil management plan, my son and I are in charge. So this is another step in the process. I encourage everybody to read the soil management plan. If there's any questions, I did see your comment, Steve. I sent it to our environmental consultant. I said, help me come up with some more approximates, but there's nothing in there that is alarming to me. I can show you a site I'm working on upstate that's quite alarming, but that's another story. All right, thank you.
It's not here.
One question I had was, as I said, I was working from, maybe it's a moot point now. I was working, Rich, from your responses. Number 39, this was about applicant proposes creation of a 2-to-1 steep slope downgrading of lots 46 and 49. Applicant shall explain how creation of these steep slopes will not cause adverse impacts downstream, especially noting that this abuts right against the wetland buffer. And it was something in your response that I was trying to understand. Stormwater runoff from the buildings and the road immediately uphill of the reference area is being captured and conveyed by the proposed stormwater collection and conveyance system. Then it was the next sentence that lost me. The reference slope will be vegetated with erosion control matting and will mainly experience sheet flow across it. Mainly experience. What did that mean?
That is because I am an engineer, and it takes a whole lot for me to actually express a qualified term. The way that slope is designed is we're going to be picking the runoff, and I'm checking the plan real quick while we talk, but we're picking the runoff.
That's it. SP 2-3, I think is the sheet where I saw those units.
Yeah, and
I was on the kitchen floor. I had sheets of paper taped together. It was spectacular.
So there's not a large uphill tributary area at slope. And generally when we think about sheet flow versus the next step in flow, shallow concentrated flow, that typically occurs beyond 150 feet. Without that large uphill tributary area, there's going to be sheet flow over that slope. 2-on-1 slopes are not atypical in construction. And what you really have to worry about when you build them is is making sure that the vegetation gets established on them properly. And the real trick is how you put the erosion control matting on them. Steve and I see probably more often than we both like, if you don't anchor that matting properly, and not only at the top of the slope, but throughout the whole slope, it doesn't bond well enough with the soil to get the vegetation started. And then at that point, you get rilling underneath the matting that doesn't become evident later on. Where these slopes are designed, the minimal uphill tributary area, which is what I was talking about in that comment or in that response, is why these slopes are going to be okay.
Okay.
If I had a large tributary area with a large running slope where I'm going to actually start to see concentrated water before I hit the top of the slope, we would pick the water off differently.
Okay. 45. So the sidewalk question. Sidewalks, there was a question about sidewalks. Why not including sidewalks on the west side of the main road, but does not specify why a crosswalk connecting the west to the east is not included in the layout design. Can we talk about sidewalks?
Sure.
That was number 45
Yes.
in Steve's.
So the way we've designed the community is we're going to have a sidewalk on the lower side of the road. The comment was made, should you put sidewalks down both sides? I am in an ever-competing battle with everyone in the stormwater community telling me to create less impervious surfaces. The buzzwords on the street are you should go back to planning and zoning and talk about narrowing roads. Right, but at the same time, then I run into the New York State Fire Code, which actually tells us we should widen roads.
That's true.
And I end up in this tussle. When we look at a townhouse community like this, and how it's going to be experienced and how it's going to be used, I don't believe we need that much impervious surface or that sidewalk on both sides of the street. So as of right now, we just have the one side. It's typical for how we do townhouse communities. And then in the latest comment, there was some additional questions about crosswalks. I honestly need to talk them over with Steve, but it's something we're happy to look at when I understand the comment a little better.
Okay, so crosswalks will be discussed. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. And in certain areas, where we are crossing like a roadway, crosswalks make sense.
I believe there was a response to one of Steve's questions earlier today that I saw when I came in tonight, that regards the fact that no other development of this type even has sidewalks. The question, that was an answer to why only on one side. And if that's true, it's great. We appreciate the fact that there's a sidewalk, one side or both.
We asked the applicant to provide to the board and via our comment to have exactly this discussion for the board to understand the process that the applicant has undergone and the evaluations that they have done around circulation, around access, and around these kinds of amenities, and how they make a decision around this so that the board can understand. And I would agree that there are a lot of communities in Somers with similar density that don't have sidewalks. And in some cases it might be appropriate. In other cases it presents a challenge to the residents of that community. I think that it's reasonable in this case, in my opinion, for the applicant to say we're putting a sidewalk on the road, on the side of the road that has the most units. That this isn't a throughfare. People who are coming into this community are presumably part of this community, and this isn't connecting a main road on the other side where you have a lot of through traffic. It's a dead end. It's a circulation, and so the limited number of units that are there, it's not a multi-lane highway that they're crossing to get to the sidewalk on the other side. We just wanted that. That's not my decision, though. That's the board's decision. We wanted them to justify what they had presented, and that was the reason for our comment and the way we ordered it that way. We weren't trying to lead them astray. We're trying to make sure that the board got the information it needed to say, yes, that we're okay with that, or no, we think it should be something different.
Just refresh my recollection on the parking plan. Will the unit owner park on the unit property or on the street?
So we have garages. We also have driveways. And I'm just pulling up the parking numbers now. we have more parking than we need. So right now we have 162 spaces in driveways, 81 garage spaces, and 70 visitor spaces. We've added more visitor parking here than we have in some of our previous communities. We think it's important. We've also spread that visitor parking throughout the development to try and pick locations that are convenient to sectors of the development. For instance, we didn't stack all the visitor parking here. There's no density or no density of units, right? We scattered, convenient for here. We put some in the middle over here, and we kind of spread those 70 spaces throughout. So holidays, people come to visit, there's a little bit more parking.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. And the reason why I asked that is, and you guys know, I've done some spearheading of sidewalks for Somers, kind of got that initiative started about 15 years ago. I'm apt to believe that one sidewalk is sufficient in the sense that if we're not relying on street parking, right? If someone who lives on that the east side of the development, they can cross the street and walk on the sidewalk to go to the neighbor's house, or they can choose to walk in the street. It's to your point, it's not a throughfare. We don't anticipate a ton of traffic, right? Other than residents coming in and out, maybe some service vehicles here and there. So from a safety perspective, I think the fact that there is even a single sidewalk through the project, in my eyes, is sufficient. You over concrete things, and we start looking like an urban development, and we all know that that's not what Somers is about. We try to keep this as rustic and as bucolic as possible, and yet maintain density for 82 families. So I think it's a good trade-off, in my opinion.
Is there some kind of planning standard that predicts foot traffic for a development like this? I mean, it seems like people probably wouldn't even walk out to the recreation center. They'd probably drive towards it from the other end of the development. So, I mean, it just, I find it hard to believe that 2 sidewalks would be necessary for the amount of people living in this development.
So as far as like a guidebook or like a building code to go to, there's not. There are sidewalk design standards. Actually, it was the last question on my PE exam. Design width of a sidewalk in an urban environment.
Did you get it right?
Hope so. But as far as should your community have 1 or 2, I think it's kind of based on how you see the community experienced, the type of environment and community you're in at large. We're certainly being more respectful of multimodal transportation and site design than I'm going to say we probably ever have been. I think having a sidewalk in this community is an important feature. This is an area where sometimes you do want to ride your bike in the street. I happen to live in a neighborhood where that still happens. But at the same time, I think you also want to give your residents an option to walk with a stroller, or maybe walk your dog in an area where you don't feel the pressure of dodging cars. Right. We also want to create that pedestrian feel because we're next to a nice shopping center. And we are going to have sidewalks that continue to that shopping center through the road network and tie into the Planned Hamlet sidewalk network. So I think carrying the theme sidewalk and encouraging walkability is an important thing. I wouldn't want to see this development with no sidewalks. But I think one's appropriate and not over sidewalking it. Again, I think your comment is right on point. It's a little out of character in our community.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, considering that we've gone years without sidewalk development, and we're still in its overall infancy stages, if you will, right? I think it's a small bite, but I think it's appropriate. I think the option for the walkable community is there. Studies have shown that's it's good for resale. It's good for home values. It's good for attracting young families with kids to strollers, like you said. And all of that sounds like Somers to me. So I think the 1 sidewalk would be appropriate. I don't see the need for 2, but that's my opinion.
I tend to agree, and I think everything we're hearing too on a health basis, public health, that walking is very healthy. So I think anything we can do to encourage that, and with connectivity, it's going to be a good thing. Where I live, there are no sidewalks and a constant stream of people walking by. So you don't need sidewalks to have people want to walk. And I think it's best to provide something so that people can walk safely and not be in the flow of traffic for the drivers as well. You don't want to have to be skirting around walkers if you don't have to. So, no, I think that's good. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I just want, how on the visitors parking, how many spaces did you say you had?
70.
And you said you have garages and driveways.
So the garages here, we actually have 2 spaces per unit in the driveway. So they're wider. So if you're thinking of like Hidden Meadow, since these are wider driveways, so each unit can fit 2 cars in the driveway. We have 162 spaces there. There's also a space in the garage if a tenant wants to use it, and then we also have 70 visitor spaces.
Okay, so you have 3 spaces per unit.
Almost, yeah. We're right there because we have 81 units and 70 visitor spaces.
Yeah, the only reason I'm bringing that up is that we're running into problems in Heritage where there are not enough visitors parking because you end up having residents with 3 and 4 cars, and it becomes a difficult situation. So I just am concerned that there's enough visitors parking.
Yeah, it was actually one of our conversations we had in this forum a couple of years ago. And our original plan, I think we were in the 50s, and it was actually working with your board that we increased that visitor, if I remember correctly. So no, it's we share your thought on that, and we want to make sure we have enough.
Somewhat on a related topic of paths and walking, items number 47 and 48, coming off your memo. This was about the wood chip trail, and drawing had been, this is the wood chip trail that goes between the community center and the dog park. And then on 48, Rich, on your response, the question from Steve was, the applicant shall clarify if there's any proposed grading for the proposed dog park area along the connection pathway to the community center. And your response, Rich, was, no grading is proposed within the dog park and connecting pathway, as existing grades fall within ADA accessible route standards, which put it in my mind, and I don't know this, is a wood chip path considered an ADA accessible pathway?
It is not. That is actually one of the things we're talking about internally, is about that trail and whether it needs to be a more stabilized surface for accessibility.
Good. Okay, so that's to be further discussed. Okay, all right. Number 48. Somewhere in here, and I really thought I saw, but I'm not seeing it right now. Was there a discussion about irrigation? There was a question about amount of water, and I think the response was that there won't be irrigation, so it becomes a non-issue. Is that, did I
I saw
Yeah.
that.
imagine that? I think I remember, it's somewhere in here.
I took that to,
right?
that there's no sprinkler systems, is that?
We're not proposing an irrigation system in the community.
System, okay. So my thing is, if you're not proposing an irrigation system within the community, could you nevertheless have individuals who purchase the home and then want to put irrigation in front of their home? I've seen it happen around my neighborhood. Does that need to be accounted for?
I don't believe the HOA agreement would let somebody do that.
It wouldn't allow it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, just wanted to ask. And then, more questions. Wait a minute. The 7 phases. The 5 units that are going to be at the 120% of the AMI, what phase do they get built in? I was just curious, kind of on a related to that it gets built sort of issue.
Yeah, well, it will get built up.
I know.
But that's a great question. I guess, Charlie?
Yes.
That's part of when you finalize,
We have not, Roland and I have not discussed that, but
Right.
obviously it's something we can incorporate.
right, maybe,
I don't know if that belongs in the community benefit agreement.
No, not,
Right.
no.
No, that's a county
something-
requirement.
so those 5 units, it's interesting. You know, I've done a lot of affordable workforce and so forth, but these 5 don't have any type of government involvement at all. It was something that we discussed with the county. And 120%, it's pretty neat. And it goes up to family, I think 170,000, 180,000, but yet the purchase price will still be, I think, below $600,000.
Wow.
Is pretty good. That was like the starting purchase price for the market rate units at Hidden Meadow. So timing wise, yeah, we'll have to do something that, can we do something similar to what we did at Crossroads? I can't get my final COs until we're up and framed, and I'm not going anywhere
Yep, I know.
unless my son kicks me out. But yeah, we'll do something like that.
Sounds good.
Whatever you think is
Coup d'etat.
agreeable,
Okay.
right?
And I also had a question about the lighting plan. Thinking back, and can you remember, and you will probably, Rich, public hearings on previous developments that happened up in Baldwin Place, people from the public would come and they would be concerned about the amount of lighting and that they wouldn't want extra lighting flowing on to where they are. And when I looked at the lighting plan, I had the 2 packets, and the last sheet in one packet was the first sheet of the lighting plan, and it had an image of a light that was sort of more rectangular, and it didn't necessarily look like light was being cast down. So could you walk me through the lighting plan and describe to me the fixtures, and is the lighting different in the residential area versus in the parking for the community center? Just give me the overall sense, because I'm not a lighting expert, and it's a lot of dots on plans to me, honestly, Rich. But I did see that fixture, and I was a little concerned because it didn't look like it was pointing down. It looked decorative, but not necessarily like it would give someone a sense that light wouldn't be shining in all directions.
From the picture, good pickup. It's actually a light fixture I think many on the board are familiar with. It's the one we use at Meadow. It's also at Muse 1 and Muse 2. It's a globe style, so it's a little bit more vintage look, historic looking.
Pretty, yes.
But it does come with a top cap,
Okay.
and the light sits up into the top cap, and it has house side shields on it. So the glass will glow like a historic light would, but you don't actually see the light because of where it sits in the fixture.
Okay, because those pieces were not included in the image.
I agree with you. It's tough to see in the image because the picture looks like it's still a translucent top, but it's the light that you guys have actually
Okay.
Hidden Meadow and elsewhere.
All right. And then is the intensity of the light, is it different? Could you describe to me the effect of the light in the residential versus the, I wouldn't say commercial, but the community center dog park?
We actually are proposing just a single pole throughout the community and the community center, 14 feet in height. So, in the community center, we didn't switch to a more commercial lighting. We've kept it similar. We're kind of lucky in that we're in our own little island. We're kind of nestled down. We talked about this a lot early on with where our conservation easement area is, and how that creates a high point that then comes back down, and we sit on the other side. Even from our neighbors to the west, right there, we're kind of nestled down in a hill, and we're in our own little valley.
So even the people who are over there on the left-hand side next to where it says North County Trailway, that area there,
There's going to be the up and down on the gradient, and if you remember, this is actually the part of the trailway that sits in a valley.
Right.
So, and you're closer as you come, you're at the same elevation as the homes and the ponds behind Meadow Park, and then the grade
It goes up. Yep.
then comes back down, and then we're on the far hill. So, and all of our light spillage we've really kept tight to the area development.
Okay. And that was that. I think that was the last of my questions. Other questions? No?
I'm good.
No questions for now? Paul, questions? No. Okay. What does everybody think about scheduling to open the public hearing in December? Applicant, I don't know if you know that we are not meeting our usual date in December. There's a scheduling conflict, so our December meeting is going to be the third Wednesday. This is my reminder. I'm also going to give at the end of the meeting, Wednesday, the 17th of December, same time, 7:30. But we are meeting on the 17th of December. That's the number, right? Yeah. So I, for one, based on everything I've heard, would be comfortable with scheduling to open the public hearing on that Wednesday and at least get the discussion started, see what the community has to say. You can keep working on information exchange and gathering more information in the meantime. We can all think about what we've heard tonight as well.
Yeah, I would be willing to second that motion. I appreciate council's advice about the soil reports, but the applicant's been at this for 30 years. I trust that he knows how to mitigate this, and yeah, I think it's worthy. We'll get it, and we'll review it, but I think the public will have an opportunity to give an opinion probably even before the 17th, before we get that information, and they can access it on the website, soil report, when it gets published from the town, Somers. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, so I would be comfortable seconding your motion to open the public hearing as soon as possible.
Any other feedback or concerns? Any agreement?
None?
No.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we've scheduled the hearing for the public hearing to open at 17th of December.
Okay.
Look forward to seeing you back then. More information.
Okay.
And there you go. Wherever you go, it's holiday cheer, Ken.
Cheerio.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Giants.
The last item on tonight's agenda is a referral by the Somerstown Board for a public hearing on application for a floating zone designation to accommodate solar energy system on the Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES campus. Should be very familiar to us. We just discussed this the last 2 meetings ago. The town board has received a request to apply a solar energy system floating zone on the Putnam Northern Westchester Board of Cooperative Education Services, BOCES, to be applied to approximately 11.8 acres of the BOCES campus located in the town of Somers. The proposed action is a zoning map amendment to designate an approximately 11.8 acre portion of the BOCES campus as a Tier 3 energy system. So Dave, could you give us some context on this?
Yes, Madam Chair. So as you had alluded to, the board had discussed proposed zoning text amendments. It was either at your last meeting or the meeting before, as you had mentioned, and this was a response to BOCES wanting to install a Tier 3 system on their property. Currently, or at that time, that type of use was not a permitted use in the town of Somers. So the Somerstown Board went through the process of crafting zoning language that would allow for that type of use. In addition to, we had talked about the Tier 1, which is a much smaller system, is really meant for application on individual residences or commercial establishments. And those Tier 1 systems, they would just go to the building department for a building permit. But the Tier 3, given that they're larger, would, and those Tier 3 systems are limited to either a public school or a school of higher education. The property has to be 12 acres or less, and it has to be in the R120 zoning district. So really, that only applies to the BOCES facility. There were two of the Somers school district properties, I think Lincoln Hall and JFK. So that type of use is extremely limited within the town of Somers. And the intent was, and Michael, you can pick up if I missed anything, but the intent was that these facilities serve the public. They serve the town of Somers, and the BOCES actually serves a larger constituency. But the intention was that this is a benefit to those institutions, which in turn lowers their operating costs, and that savings gets passed on to the constituents, town of Somers constituents, or for the people who use the BOCES facilities. And so that was really the thought process behind the town wanting to limit that type of use to just those types of areas. So the text amendments were adopted, they were approved, and now BOCES has submitted a letter, formal letter that was part of the public hearing notice, asking to have the district apply to that portion of their Somers campus. And the location and the site plan have been provided as part of the public hearing notice, which you have. So procedurally, the town board referred this, and they refer zoning text and zoning map amendments to the planning board as requirement under the town code. As you recall, there's an issue with timing, and because the town board needed to meet on the 10th, which was your normal meeting, that's why they kind of expedited the process a little bit so that you could have a chance to review this referral and get back to them before their meeting on December 10th. So that's really the intention here. Just as public notice, BOCES has a community meeting with the neighbors tonight about their application. So the neighbors in that immediate vicinity, in that neighborhood, have an opportunity to discuss this directly with BOCES and their proposed action. But for now, the action that you're considering is just the application of the floating zone to that specific portion of the BOCES campus. And I would ask Michael if you have anything to add or clarify to that description.
Dave nailed it. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Happens, everyone.
He also nailed this entire procedure, which he should get credit for. I did give the town board an update on the status of the project, and that BOCES has commenced site preparation. They have a deadline of December 31st, where they have to construct or complete 5% of the proposed array, which includes clearing, I believe, establishing the driveway, and commencing the infrastructure necessary to install the panels. We haven't reviewed any of those agreements. That we're not privy to them, so I can't speak particularly to it. Although myself, Dave, and Steve were involved in a lot of negotiations and discussions amongst BOCES, and Steve was involved with the review for the stormwater prevention plan and other stormwater concerns with the Department of Environmental Protection. And we were involved with discussions with the Highway Department and DeVito and Mr. Tuma from the Building Department regarding Bureau of Fire Prevention concerns and the Highway Department's concerns regarding the driveway, and BOCES has agreed to all their requests. So they're in the process of drafting an intermunicipal agreement, which will cover those requests, and that BOCES or Johnson Controls, the actual contractor, will comply with them. Tomorrow I intend to drive by the campus to determine to what extent they've commenced work. I've requested it from their attorney, David Shaw. There was a lot of discussion last week in advance of the town board meeting, but I have yet to receive the actual timeline and extent of work that'll be conducted from now through December 31st. Otherwise, he did send me the placard for the building permits approved by the Department of Education, which, according to the local law, at least the last draft I saw before, exempts the project from site plan review and special exception use permit, so long as the commissioner has endorsed the site plan and specifications, and those are filed with the building department.
And so you got evidence of that's happened?
Working on that.
That's what you're working on, okay.
I received what is posted in the window whenever someone gets granted a building permit, and I've requested the others. They've told me that they received 20 building permits issued by the Department of Education, signed by the commissioner. I'm waiting on receipt of those.
Okay.
So we're holding their feet to the fire. This has been an ongoing thing for 11 months now. So again, I'll have a better update for you once I perform the site visit and get a response.
Okay. Sounds good. So for our part, do we need to send a memo to the town board saying we have no objection?
If that's,
If that's
if that's the consensus of the board, we could certainly relay that back to the town board, yes.
I mean, I would say, my feeling, just one person, of that was sort of the purpose of why we were considering doing this, was to make it available for BOCES to be able to do the solar work on the site. So, I'm in favor of just sending a memo saying we have no objection to the application of the floating zone.
Yeah, if that's a motion, I'll second that.
Can I ask a quick question on this? So, I'm assuming on the land that the yellow outline is the BOCES campus, right? On the
That is the site of the array, extending, so if you're on Pines Bridge Road where it intersects with Mosman Avenue, there's a large open field, it's approximately 12 acres to the west. That will be the site of the solar array. It's
is the red field. The
Yeah, Paul, are you referring to this tax map?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so the area that's outlined, proposed solar energy floating zone designation, that's the approximately 12 acres.
That's it.
That
But so
floating zone would be applied, and that essentially the following page is the kind of the array itself.
Yeah.
So it's basically an overlay of.
right.
Yep.
So the BOCES campus itself is much larger.
It's much bigger. It's 247 acres, and that includes essentially a fair portion on, and then also land area in the town of Yorktown.
Okay.
split.
I'm just curious why it was decided to put that array right along Pinesbridge Road. Like there seems to be a lot of land there, and I travel that road pretty frequently, and it's a nice wooded road. So I'm just wondering, like, what was, or is that part of our jurisdiction here, to understand why it was decided to put that right there? Because it feels like that's just like a ton of road frontage.
There is, it's a good question. There is vegetation currently along the road. My understanding is that's going to remain. Now, whether they enhance that with additional landscaping, that's a fair question to ask, and you may want to add that as a comment back to the town board. But looking at the plan itself, just to the west, there's some fairly steep grades, and so I think where they're proposing the solar arrays probably makes sense for them because it's in the correct location to capture as much sunlight as possible, and the terrain isn't. It's not as difficult to work with as if you move further to the west.
Got it.
I suspect that's probably why they picked the optimal location on the site.
Even that, as you're looking at the page, as you move over to the left, slope is increasing.
Yeah, the topography gets much steeper.
Dave, if I remember correctly, there's an existing roadway there also, or a driveway, from the previous entrance that was there many years ago.
Yeah, it may be an informal, or it needs to be improved to a standard, and I think the town highway department has suggested you need to include this as a design feature for that, and I think that's what Michael alluded to, back to the coordination between both the town and BOCES and their contractor.
And with the DOE exemptions, they won't be in front of us with a site plan, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so that's, unfortunately, like those questions, I don't think they have to answer per se.
They don't have to.
Right? Because,
I think you could certainly have it as a comment in the response back to the town board that, the town board, they could certainly pass that along to, and, Michael's in constant contact with the BOCES representative, and he could certainly say, listen, came up at the planning board last night, and this is one of the concerns.
Yeah.
They did do an informal meeting with neighbors along Pines Bridge back in February of this year, and one of the concerns was, appearance. And
Yeah.
the neighbors requested screening. I haven't seen any design plan for screening, but the BOCES reps have told us repeatedly that they intend to screen along Pines Bridge to prevent, people from having to look at the array from their front doors.
Do we know how close the array is to the actual road? I mean, it looks like it runs right there. I can't tell from the.
It's not a big area. I've driven by it a number of times. I'm assuming, given the degree of screening, There may be, I think the panels, they're angled, I don't remember the degree they're angled, but they're approximately 8 feet tall. So depending on the extent of the site work and grading they do, if they were to remove a lot of soil to make it as level as possible, they may reduce, the view shed or the panels themselves. And then there's, of course, whether they're going to install a fence. I think it was floated a 6 or 8 foot fence, at the request of the neighbors, or some other form of screening, but I can confirm that. I would think the array, given the sheer magnitude of it, will probably get fairly close to Pines Bridge Road, but I can't speak for certain.
Yeah, and you can look at the plan that was submitted, and it's hard to tell at this scale, but looking at it on a computer, you can blow it up and see that there's probably 15 to 20 feet at least of separation between the proposed array and Pines Bridge Road. In fact, it may be more.
The road has to be built to accommodate a fire
Yeah.
apparatus entering it.
Does.
It's going to be fair distance, so maybe 30
Yeah.
to 50 feet. It could be longer.
Yeah, so-
further distance from the road. However, when you drive along Pines Bridge, as you said, you look into that field and it's right there. Like,
Yeah.
There's a shallow ditch, and then you're at that field in the tree line.
Yeah. Yeah,
How
exactly.
proximate, I can't say exactly.
I mean, it might be wise to suggest that as far as I understood, the presentation to the fire board was, it was going to be surrounded with a perimeter fence with a gate for access. And maybe we can request that they consider, putting some slats in the fence along the roadway so that it, that further shields it.
You should put whatever comments you like to the town board. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, the comments that I would have would just be to, keep it as natural and looking as possible. I mean, otherwise it's going to look like, a scene from Mad Max over there. So, keep it natural. I know there is some tree covering over there, and try to disguise it to the best that they can. I mean, it's an unfortunate thing to have to run right down Pines Ridge Road, considering the amount of land they have there. But I do recognize the angles and topography and sun, whatnot there. But yeah, I mean, screening. I'm not sure what kind of fence they're going to put there. Certainly wouldn't want to be living across the street from that. But yeah,
Okay.
those would be my comments.
Got it. Thank you.
So if we said that we don't have objection to the application of the floating zone as described in the notice, but we do note that there is some vegetation there, we would like the applicant to make an effort to maintain the existing vegetation, perhaps put in supplementary vegetation and or fencing as needed to preserve the view shed. Something like that. If I made a motion that said all that.
And I would second him. If that
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Got it. Thank you.
You got that right, Nicole?
Yes.
Okay, that was our last item. I'd like to say happy Thanksgiving, everybody, as
Next meeting.
that will happen before we're done again. And our next meeting is on Wednesday, December 17th, 2025, as opposed to our, and,
Just January,
yes.
right?
Oh,
Felt like
right,
it was just
that-
January.
So, do I have I'll move that we adjourn until December 17th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody.